Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tyria then, and we've reached 20, guys. We've reached the big episode 20, 2-0. Miko, welcome back.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back. Hello, Aaron.
We're 20 deep.
We are 20 deep. We have now surpassed our Tyria Now podcast.
Yes, we'll be repurposing the channel as the Tyria Then channel. No, we're not going to do that. But this is now our longest running deal. And there's no end in sight. There's plenty of content left on the horizon. And this episode is kind of jam-packed with content.
Yes. Yes, it is.
We did quite a bit of stuff. And I think we each did a few different things than the other.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so in this episode, for a brief forecast, we do reach the mainland of Cantha, and we kind of explore the city a little bit. Mm-hmm. What's happened in the factions campaign so far, Miko?
So far, we have been trying to find the root cause of a plague affecting the Canthan continent. And we did this last episode by running through Minister Cho's estate, where we discovered that there was a plague going on, and then having to run our way through primary quests up to Zendaijun, which is where we ended up for this episode, with everyone saying, hey, look, there's a plague going on. And we're like, cool, yeah, we know. We need to find out what's causing it.
Yes, and Master Togo wants us to investigate what's going on in the valley at is Zendaijun, is that the valley? Is it a temple? What is Zendaijun?
I think it is a temple region in a valley.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting. I didn't talk to the podium man because factions doesn't really encourage you to do that.
Yeah, I forgot to talk to him as well.
And so I have not done it for the last 2 missions we've done.
Yeah, same.
I need to get back in the podium man habit. The prophecies, we were so good about it because you never have a clue what's going on at any given point in the game.
Yeah.
But factions is pretty good about keeping the plot on track and things making sense narratively. So I don't usually feel like I need a podium guy when I'm going into a mission. But yeah, we tracked the sickness to this Zendaijun Valley location, and we have to hop in and figure out what's going on, and that's where we're starting the episode with this mission. Togo says, so we start the mission, which, and the henchmen for this mission are level 16 as well.
Yes.
Which is, like, pretty sweet. And we're going to re-enter Zendaijun for a quest after the mission. And the henchmen are no longer going to be level 16, and it sucks. No,
it's most annoying.
Yeah, it sucks. But for the mission, they're level 16, and that's great. And we hop in for the mission. I think I've been taking everybody except the ranger henchmen. Okay. Because I'm doing the bow shoot.
Right.
Which henchmen have you been taking?
I've been taking all of them. I think I've been playing around with taking the ritualist henchman and leaving him out, or at least for this part of the area of the quests that we're doing so far.
I like him. I think he's a cool guy. Professor Guy is the ritualist, right?
Well, yeah. I think. Well, in Zendaijun, I think we have Aesong still.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, because I don't think we get Professor Guy until we get to the mainland. Yeah. All right. Yeah, so our boy Asen, who is one of the monastery students.
Yes.
Yeah, he's in both our parties. And then I've been taken, now that we open up to 6 people at Zendaijun, I did take the assassin henchman for like an extra melee. She dies a lot.
She dies a lot, yes.
I have, this episode is going to give me opinions on assassins' viability in melee combat in Guild Wars. Right now I'm leaning towards way too squishy, but so we'll discuss that. But we get sent into the Zendaijun Valley to investigate, and Togo says he's already sent Yijo Tan in by himself.
Yes, which I was like, well, that's probably a bad idea, Togo.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
As we talked about last episode, Yijo he's got a lot of book knowledge, and he just likes to throw himself into combat willy-nilly.
Yeah,
he's failing his practical application course.
Yeah, he likes to study, but he is not so good at applying his skills, but he thinks he is.
Yes.
So we have to kind of chase him down and try to figure out what's going on. Headmaster Vang is here as like an accompaniment. He's not a henchman. He's just there.
Yes.
He's an elementalist, right?
Yes, he's an elementalist and a bit of a blowhard.
Yeah. He's the guy who's like, did you hear that I killed the, whatever in the swamp? Like some shit like that. I don't have my notes up from that episode, but he likes to. He likes to go over his accomplishments, and he like kind of talks shit on Yijo.
He talks shit on Yijo. He talks shit on essentially the player character.
Yeah, and Togo like scolds him too.
Yeah.
And then there's this horse goat thing called Zunra.
Yes.
And they're there.
Yes.
And you can actually talk to this guy at Seitung Harbor before you get to Zendaijin, and there's just like no context for what this thing is or why he's there. He, she, I'm not clear. I think it's a he. And it's called a Kirin, or what these things are called. So they're like a unicorn, but they have goat horns instead of like a narwhal horn.
Right.
So his name is Zunra, Zunraa. And he says he's protected the valley of Zendaijin for hundreds of years, but somehow he is only level 13.
Yeah, which is a bit lamentable, because he dies very quickly.
He does, and there's not really any punishment for him dying beside... Well, in the mission, can he die, or is it only in the explorable area that he can die?
In both. And then you can respawn him by ringing the bell of the shrines of Zunra that are peppered around the Zendaijin Valley.
Yeah, so he's just like a monk accompaniment you can have with your party, except he charges into melee combat and gets himself killed constantly.
Yeah, he's like the ghostly spirit horse version of Alicia.
Yeah, no, he's bad, and he dies a lot, and you have to respawn him a lot, because I think you need him alive for like things in the mission and in the quest to trigger, so that you can move forward.
Yeah.
And boy, the quest after the mission is annoying. But yeah, this guy dies all the time, and I had to res him many times during all my time spent in Zendaijin.
Same.
As we go through the valley, going after Yijo, there's like purple sickness clouds.
Yes, miasma.
Yeah, and I for some reason I remember this stuff not being that bad. This stuff is utterly devastating. To stand in. This stuff will kill you very fast. Yeah,
it gives you health degeneration. And if you're just staying in it, things are not going to go well for you.
Yeah,
and your party.
Yeah, and your party will just sit there and stand in it. It's not so big of an issue for this mission. You just don't want to engage a fight in it. Which there were a couple times where like my melee henchmen would be standing in it and fighting, but most of my party didn't have an issue with it. How did fighting in the miasma go for you?
I tried to stay out of it as much as possible. Obviously, the melee characters had to go in, but with the level 16 version of the henchmen in the mission,
they're a lot more durable.
Tyria, the healer monk, is able to kind of just take care of them without them dying too much. I think I ended up taking Lucas and the assassin henchman Mai, I think it is. Yeah,
Mei, I think is her name.
Oh, May, yeah.
May or Mai.
Yeah.
I took the same, and we probably had very similar party comps. I did not take the ranger henchman Zoe, I want to say. Right. But I took everyone else.
Yeah.
And I didn't find the fights too hard. You fight mainly afflicted, which they just look like tumors with.
They really do. They're really bad.
Yeah, they're just walking tumors, more or less, in various shapes and sizes. They're pretty fun, visually designed. What's your favorite, or what's your least favorite afflicted to fight? Which one do you find the most annoying?
Assassins.
Okay, because they kind of break your back line and just nuke down your healer.
They always come for me. as a ritualist, and they inflict a lot of bleeding, and I just try to hex them as soon as I can. I try to get my defensive spirits up before I try to engage. Make sure I've got my enchantments up so that I can, just keep spamming. If I can get my blindness spirit up, then that kind of helps as well.
Yeah, the blindness is very helpful against assassins. As I find out this episode as an assassin, I find myself using Antidote Signet a lot this episode, because I think when we get to Kaine, there's a lot of blinding going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, combat not too bad. I hate the afflicted elementalists. They just do a lot of damage.
They are really not fun.
Yeah, it seems like elementalists just feel a lot more dangerous in factions than they did in Prophecies. The real only scary elementalists in Prophecies were the imps in the final mission. Right. The Titan imps, the Sparks of the Titans. Apart from that, I didn't find myself living in terror of elementalists.
No.
Now I do. When I see an elementalist group, or God forbid an elementalist boss, which there seem to be a lot of, I cower in fear, and especially if you have to kill a monk or a ritualist first, right? Because then I know I have to get battered by this double damage elementalist monk before I can even start attacking it. It just...
right.
Yeah, no, elementalist, very frustrating with how the current implementation of the game. How elemental damage ignores a lot of your base armor rating. And not ignores... But unless you're a ranger that has that plus against elemental damage, your base armor rating doesn't help you very much against elemental damage. And it sucks. It sucks.
Yes.
So getting roasted alive by those. And this mission is actually pretty short.
It is, yes. So long as you can... Which path did you take?
At the fork, I went north rather than south.
So did I, because I looked at the wiki map and I was like, seems to be a lot more miasma pools on the southern route. I'm going north.
Yeah, it said alternate path, and alternate path, and the alternate path is just so much longer, and I'm just I think I won't do that, right?
Yes.
So I remember this mission being long for some reason. I think the last time I did it might have been doing it in hard mode for the title.
Okay.
And I think that takes a while, but it's actually super short.
Yeah. Especially if you take that northerly route.
Yeah, exactly. And then we find Yijo on a bridge with a random dude named Farmer. What's his name?
So Farmer Zhengzhou is actually you meet him out in the open world. What is it? It's outside of oh god, why I can't remember the name. It's where Sister Tai is. Sister Tai? Yes.
Yeah, Sume Village.
Sume Village, my
so
goodness.
He's the guy that is that has a short little cutscene with a crimson skull outside.
Yes, he's out there, and you can get a couple of quests from him at various points. So he's out there.
Is he the guy that gives you the quest where you go plant seeds by kneeling?
Yes.
Okay,
he gives you that one. I think you can get cash crops from him as well. Or is that the same one? That might be the same one.
That might be the same one.
Yeah. But there's another one that you can pick up from him. I can't remember the name of it right now, but so that is the farmer.
Oh, okay.
So you have met him, presumably, and knew that he was kind of an alright guy, and now all of a sudden he's someone, for whatever reason, he's made his way into Zendaijun, which is not that close to his farm and village, and he's out there with Yijo, and they have not fared well versus the afflicted.
Yeah, so him and Yijo's afflicted, so Yijo's lost, he's hostile, he's an enemy. Zhengzhou is afflicted, he's hostile. Yijo hits, so Yijo has clearly been studying his practical application after me taking him to see Sister Tai, because Yijo hits for 150 fucking damage with Spirit Rift.
I wonder if he hits better as an afflicted because he no longer can overthink.
Right, yeah. It turns out afflicted, or like an afflicted like rictualist has a superior mind to Yijo-tan.
Okay.
That wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, I think he's level 18.
Yes.
And he's he hits really hard, but not too bad of a fight, honestly.
No.
It kind of crams you on this bridge, which is kind of a bitch because that Spirit Rift skill is AoE.
Yeah.
But that's like kind of he's kind of a one-trick pony, like that's all he has up his sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah, I targeted him first because Farmer Zenjo is he's a ranger and is not as scary.
Yeah, no, I don't even remember him worrying me in any way. Mm-hmm. And then you'd think those would be the final enemies of the mission, but they're actually not.
Correct.
There is a afflicted monk boss, and the afflicted monks look very tumorous. They're just like round blobs, like potato tumors. Yeah. Yes. And they have a skill called Ray of Judgment.
Oh gosh, I hate that skill so much.
Yeah, and I don't remember if this guy has it, because this guy's not level 20, I don't think, but the level 20 afflicted monks in the city have Ray of Judgment. It's an elite skill, and it basically calls down a divine ray of fire from the heavens to smite their enemies. Yeah. There was a very, very brief time, it wasn't very long until ArenaNet nerfed that skill for players, but there was a brief period of time where the AoE from the skill would not cause enemies to disband and run out of it. So the meta was to just run 5 Ray of Judgment Smiter monks and just kill everything that way. But yeah, that didn't last long because ArenaNet nerfed it fairly easily by applying the correct code for AoE damage. But yeah, this monk, the Afflicted Kana, he goes down pretty easily. He's not too bad. It kind of took me a while to kill him because my party's damage kind of sucked. But we got there. Mm-hmm. And then there's a little bit of a cutscene.
There is, and we learn from Togo, who sees that there is a symbol on the ground, and he says that he didn't think that he'd ever see this symbol again, and it is the symbol of the guild of Shiro Tagachi.
Yeah, and it's like kind of a red. I'll put it on the screen. It's kind of a red like. I mean, we've already used the word symbol. I'm trying to think of another word to use, but it's a red glowy symbol, and it's pretty menacing looking.
It is,
and it's just hanging out on the temple floor. And Togo recognizes it, says it's the guild symbol of Shiro Tagachi, someone we haven't heard too much about so far. Right. And our character kind of fills us the player, like the person sitting at the computer, gets filled in by our character, who mentions that Shiro is the one who turned the forest to stone and the sea to jade.
Yes, we knew that from watching the trailer, the CGI trailer, but in game it doesn't get referenced until this point.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by, like, we don't know much about this guy yet, because and we're going to learn about him in this episode, but the opening, as we discussed in the first episode of Factions, the opening cutscene of Factions doesn't tell you very much about the setting you're entering. But if you watch the CGI trailer, you know a lot about Shiro Tagachi. So the guy from the CGI trailers who's being referenced here.
Yes.
And basically Togo says that, like, well, now I got to go to the mainland to figure this the hell out.
Yeah. And what I found funny is that he also tells you that he's sent a note to Menlo of Ascalon, who's a former pupil of his, to come to Cantha, and he says he should be on his way. And I was like, when did you send this note?
Right.
We were standing here, or before we went in?
There's a lot of this in Factions, like when Aang the Ephemeral delivered a message in the 2-minute window where we were away from the Aerie. So this kind of happens again. But yeah, apparently we're going to be meeting up with Menlo, who is part of our gang of heroes from Guild Wars Prophecies. Yes. Apparently he is a former student of Togo. So that's kind of fun. I don't know if we knew that already. I think we knew he was Canthan. I don't think we knew he was, because I don't think Master Togo was like a mentioned character in Prophecies. Right. So I think this is a little bit of new information, which is pretty fun. And he says he's also sending a message to his brother in Canning City, and I don't think we know who this is yet.
No, we do not.
Just that he has a brother in Canning City, and he's sending a message.
He tells us to follow him while he goes off to the mainland.
He tells us to talk to some dude who will hook us up.
Yeah, First Mate Zhang, who he doesn't actually tell us where he is, but your quest marker will tell you, or I think the wiki will tell you that he's in Seitung Harbor.
Well, and it might not make sense right now why we're not going to the mainland together, because that's our immediate goal for both of us, right? Like Togo and the player are both on their way to the mainland, but we don't go together. But it's kind of made clear later when we find out what Togo's actually up to there. Togo seems to be a fan of multitasking, like sending people to do different things at the same time, which is kind of smart, right? It's kind of a smart way to handle inquiries, for want of a better term.
Right.
So yeah, he kind of uses his students as his own private personal army, which is a little alarming.
Yeah.
Like Xingje Monastery is kind of like just Togo's little operation to like do whatever he wants, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. He's got this ready-made entourage that are ready to follow him because, one, he's I think a legend, and two, he's trained everybody.
Yeah, he's Dumbledore essentially.
Yes,
and we're kind of his Order of the Phoenix.
Right. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. So we gotta talk to First Mate Zhang maybe. Zhang, yeah. I'm terrible with anything with an X in it. It's over for me. All right.
That's okay.
Xiang. Zhang.
Yeah. Shang. Yeah, I play a lot of Genshin, which has a lot of XI names in them, or XAI names in them. So yes.
And he wants us. He's gonna be the one that hooks us up with a boat to mainland Cantha.
Yep.
And we're to meet with. Are we meeting with the same person? Because I'm meeting with Headmaster Greco.
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. So this quest is the same for everybody. I was wondering if it was like profession specific, because Greco is a ranger, but it appears to be the same. And we get off at what's this? Is it just called the Kaining Docks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get off there, and everything has become gray and brown.
Yes.
This is the grayest, brownest.
It is the most depressing main city. I think I want to say in all of the Guild Wars universe.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think you'd be correct there, because all the cities in Nightfall are like very beautiful. Mm-hmm. They're like very nice places to be. They feel good, right?
Yeah.
Kaining City proper is pretty nice. It's got like that the red wood roofs and the like nice carved stone architecture and stuff. But anything outside of the instance of Kaining City is just like endless as far as the eye can see. Rows and columns of ramshackle slums that may be made out of cardboard.
Yeah.
They look like they're made out of cardboard.
It is definitely a city that is for whatever reason, it's lost its luster. I don't think that the plague is to blame for this. I think that there's something more going on that maybe we haven't been told about or we haven't found out about yet.
Yes. And all the like whatever graphic they decided to use for these like slums, they look soggy. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But all the little huts, they look like soggy, greasy, like a fast food bag when it's had a burger in it for too long.
And they all have like tattered looking just tattered curtains as doors. The people don't look all that prosperous. It looks like there's a high level of poverty. It's just not. It's like, what is happening in Kaining that there is such a disparity between like what you see in Kaining City proper and the rest of Kaining.
Yeah, and we find out during this quest that the plague actually started on the mainland, and that the plague is way worse in Kaining City than it is in Xingje. Like, it's just getting to Xingje. The mainland has been dealing with this for like weeks at this point.
Yeah.
And that's part of why the city's in such bad shape, but I think it is a deeper issue than that. And a lot of... How many quests did you do in an area called Wajin Bazaar?
Oh, gosh.
Weijun Bazaar, maybe.
Weijun Bazaar, yeah. One...
I did like 5.
Yeah, hang on, I gotta skip down because I was doing other quests. I did some Shinji quests as well to kind of help myself level.
Yeah, because you had a backlog of quests to do.
I did have a backlog, yeah, and I want to say I did at least maybe 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, that's probably in the ballpark of what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the ones that are along the path that we're taking through the game. And we'll get to it a little more in a bit, but like the overall narrative, like I really like the quests in Wajin Bazaar because they kind of have a focused narrative point of like, look at what is systemically wrong with the Kainan government and like their bureaucracy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a look into kind of a microcosm of what the hell is wrong with the administration of this city on like a core level. It's pretty cool. So we meet Greco at the docks. I mentioned here that he looks Luxon, and I believe his dialogue confirms that he's Luxon,
right?
Because I think he talks about like the tribes back home. But yeah, he's Luxon, which we'll find out about later in the game. But they're people who live in the Jade Sea. They're like pirate guys. They're kind of cool.
Yeah, they're.
And Togo wants us to meet him somewhere called Weijun Bazaar, which is another explorable area. And then there's a outpost attached to this, and it's not the main city.
Nope.
Where? What's the first outpost we head into?
The marketplace.
Yeah, and what level are the henchmen in the marketplace?
Well, that's a good question. I want to say, are they 20?
Yeah, they're 20.
Yeah.
So what level are you when you get to the marketplace?
16, I want to say.
Same. I'm level 16. The game, so in comparison to Prophecies, where the henchmen always felt woefully underleveled, the henchmen actually outpace the player in terms of leveling.
Which is nice.
In factions. Yeah, the henchmen are level 20 before you are. And then all the enemies are level 20 up here in the city too.
Yeah.
And so it's such a wildly different pacing. Like, I think we can tell people now, what level are you at the end of this episode, Miko?
At the end of prepping for this episode, yes, 20. I finally hit 20.
Yeah, and I'm 19 at the end of this. And so we're 3 episodes into factions, and we are max level with max level henchmen fighting max level enemies. Yeah. In comparison, in Prophecies in episode 3, we are doing the Nolani Academy mission.
And what were we, like level 10 or something like that?
Yeah, like level 9, 10, like that territory. Yeah. And I get to level 20 in Prophecies at the Riverside Province mission.
Right, I think I did it like the next episode. Yeah,
which I think is like episode 9 or 10.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just like the big difference in the pacing of factions versus Prophecies. Factions just gets the ball rolling so much faster. And I think it's great as a second campaign. So I think the slow leveling of Prophecies is great as the first game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what ArenaNet did, making the second game a lot faster paced, was very, 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 very smart.
Yeah.
Because you can buy these campaigns individually. Like, you do not need Prophecies, right? You can just start with factions.
Correct.
But you'll be entering into a game where everybody's been playing for 6 months and they're all max level and stuff, right? It just allows you to get up to speed very fast.
Yeah.
And I think the story works as far, like, it's very fast paced, but it works. Like, I don't feel confused or lost or like it's going too fast or anything. It feels good.
Yeah, it's very well paced, as we've said. The primary quests lead you between the missions very linearly. Like, you can pick up the side quests. You don't have to.
And there's just more quests in general.
Yeah, and the quests just give you nice world building, basically.
Yeah, I would say the quests that you can do on the side are more tied into the world around you, and there's a lot more of them to do. There's a lot more XP from them. It's just Factions is a much more quest-heavy game, whereas Prophecies is a very mission-heavy game. And it results in there being a lot of mission bloat. Like, there's too many missions in Prophecies, I think it's safe to say. There's 25 missions in Prophecies, and there's only 13 in Factions.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't count the local quarters versus the foreign quarters, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, Factions, I think it's a better paced game than Prophecies in all honesty. So we get to the marketplace. Max level henchmen. I think there's a weapon vendor with max level weapons, but I didn't really feel like paying the money for it. And we'll actually talk about what happens with my weapons in just a little bit. Because there have been some changes that have occurred.
Oh dear.
For Aaron the Second. Yeah. Now, what henchmen out of the new roster, and it's the henchmen change with like every episode, every outpost we get to. So, what henchmen are you rolling out with into Wajun Bazaar from the marketplace?
From the marketplace, I believe I'm taking talent, because now we're at party of 8. And so I took Professor Guy for more spirits. I took Sue for minions. I took Talon, and I think I took Panaku. And I think at first I was running I've played around with taking Vang for some spiky elementalist stuff. I took obviously the healer. Does that give me up to 8? I'm not counting. But yeah.
Did you take Losha?
I did at first. I've played around with taking him, taking Zhou. Yeah. I've messed around a bit, but I ended up the elementalist that I preferred is the Earth elementalist, whose name is
Kai Ying.
Kai Ying, yes. I find him a little bit more helpful because he has ward against melee.
Yes, yeah, that is an awesome skill. Actually, I'm still taking everybody except the ranger. I just think that the utility that the mesmer, I just think mesmers are kind of cool, honestly. The whole like they're purple and they make illusions, like that makes me happy. Yeah. So yes. I'll be taking the bumbling Losha. He's in, and I don't remember if it's still Zoe or if it's someone else who is the ranger henchman. It might actually be Greco, but I'm not taking him. Right outside the portal, when you exit the market into Wajun Bazaar, there is a guy named Minister Basong. Did you talk to this man?
I don't think I did.
He doesn't have a quest. He's just a guy standing there. Very easy to miss. But he has one of the most out-of-pocket quotes.
What is he saying?
So, like, picture this. You've never met this man before in your life. You're brand new to Cantha. This is the first man you talk to who's local. And he says, quote, "Commoners make the most wonderful pets, except for the fact that they can talk. Perhaps there is a mutinous spell to correct that."
Oh my god.
This is the first interaction Aaron II has had with any local Canthan. And immediately he's like, I think Cantha's bad.
Yeah, it definitely shows you that there is some socioeconomic stuff going on here.
This man's name is Minister. This man is in the government. Like,
yes,
people in charge. Have this mentality about the peasantry.
Yes,
and I did enjoy that. The only response that I can click to this is, "I'll be on my way."
Right.
My character's just like, yeah, I'm gonna exit this conversation now. So yeah, very funny, very bizarre dialogue interaction with Minister Basong right outside the market. I didn't talk to as many collectors this episode because there were a lot, but none of them were like on my path, so I didn't like go out of my way to talk to them.
I talked to a few, and they talk about giving me this because the ex-enemy has I want revenge on them, or
this might help clear the plague, like stuff like
it hasn't been. It's nothing earth-shattering, basically.
Yeah, the Emperor has declared the Ampha to be outlaws. Bring me them plague idols, bro. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that was the only collector I talked to, and I was like, snooze. We'll talk about the Ampha in a second. Well, actually, let's talk about it now, because we're entering the Wajin Bazaar, and now we're facing a lot of new enemies that we haven't encountered in Xingje, in the peaceful, tranquil, lovely Xingje Islands with clean air and greenery. Now we're surrounded by brown, and I get the impression just visually that this city smells atrocious.
Yeah.
I don't think we can actually say on the podcast what I think this city smells like. But there are roving gangs just everywhere of just criminals.
Right.
That's so did you see what the gangs will do if you don't like go up to them and attack them?
No.
They just murder people.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of corpses of Canthan peasants just lying around the city.
And sometimes you'll catch them in the act. Like, they'll walk over to a Canthan peasant and kill them.
Yeah.
These are bad people. I don't feel bad about killing them.
No. If the city doesn't smell of rotting flesh or raw sewage, you're probably not... You're just probably not thinking through... Or not feeling immersed in the game.
It absolutely must smell like dead bodies, right?
Yeah.
Disease.
Like the stench of death, basically.
Death and filth.
The whole plague, so, yes.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the filth when we get to the Shenzhen tunnels and the sewers.
Yes.
Kaining's really gross. Like, they did a really good job of making the city like gross.
Yeah.
It's really well done. But yeah, there's two gangs, the Jade Brotherhood and the Ampha. The Jade Brotherhood are kind of like the triads, like the highfalutin, kind of wealthy gang. The Ampha are like the guys dressed in rags that will shiv you and...
They're thugs. They're ninja thugs.
Yeah. We basically just fight hordes of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're like the Jade Scarabs of Kaining, because they will just pop up out of nowhere or drop out of the sky because, like I said, ninjas.
Yeah, no, they do. They're so the Ampha specifically are pop-up mobs, and they'll just appear. And it shows them like coming down on like little spiderweb things.
Yes.
And like flipping down. And the Ampha have healers.
Yep. But
the most annoying Ampha are the assassins, because they have a skill called Flashing Blades, which just blocks everything and does damage. It's a skill I'm actually considering grabbing for a very specific reason.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go over that in a little bit. And then the Jade Brotherhood, they're purple. Their uniform is purple.
Yes.
And they got axe guys and they got fire guys.
Yep.
Jade Brotherhood Elementalists and Jade Brotherhood Knights, they're called. And let me tell you, there's not much that can withstand like 4 warriors who all have triple chopping you at the same time. It's
great.
Yeah, if you're facing too many of these Jade Brotherhood warriors and they all lock onto the same enemy, they will just all use the skill triple chop, which just does 3 attacks at once, and they'll just 100-0 you very fast. It's kind of comical. So those are kind of what we're dealing with and that's pretty much all I fight in this episode. It's just these 2 groups of enemies.
Yes. Yeah, if you're not running into that well, and then if you're going elsewhere, you're running into afflicted enemies, right? Yeah,
and afflicted, of course, which you've already talked about. Yeah, they're everywhere as well. And Togo wants us to meet him somewhere in Wajin Bazaar. So while we're looking for Togo, did you run across just some local flavor in this area? There's an illusionist named Ho Dim, and he's doing like a street performance.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
Yes.
He basically tells the audience, like, he's doing illusions, but he also like tells the audience how to see through his illusions.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. He's like, hey, I'm going to do these illusions, but like, if you really concentrate, you can totally see past it. And they do it successfully, and he's like, see, you learned something today. And I thought that was cooler than just being like, look, I can turn myself invisible, right?
Right.
Having the audience, like being a teacher for the audience, is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a cool way of trying to show that there are people out there in Kaining that are actually trying to help the local folk maybe be able to see through some of the enemy attacks of all of the enemies that are out there. Like, don't get caught off guard if you can.
Exactly. Yeah. He's like overall, like he's a street performer that's trying to make a living, but he's also like doing kind of a service, which is pretty cool.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's a guy next door to him called Yan Zai, who is a fire elementalist street performer.
Yeah.
I think he just makes a bunch of fire. He's not as interesting.
No, he's not as interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did Togo have to say to us when you found him in the
so
in the area?
Togo wants us to go with him to go and find Yijo's mom to let her know that Yijo is dead.
Yes, we have to be the bearers of the news. And Togo's like, it's my responsibility to do this, which is a good mentality to have, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he invites us to come with. And so we go over to her. She's like not that far away.
Mm.
And she basically says that she was like, she dreamt of her son's death already. And so she's not surprised by the news.
Mm-hmm.
And she's the one that kind of gives us the news that the plague is way worse on the mainland than on the island.
Yeah. And this is the second person that I think that we've encountered telling us that they've seen something in their dreams that have been able to, they've been tapping into dreams essentially for prophecy in a way.
There's a lot of references to kind of prophecy, which is funny because we just played Prophecies, which really only has one prophecy in it, whereas Factions has a lot of stuff about portents and shit like that, and it only has 2 factions, but it's called Factions. I don't know. I think that's a corny joke. I might cut it out. We'll see. On my way over to Gia is her name. Gia. Yijo's mom. I did come across a group of Ampha that were just like surrounded by the corpses of Canton peasants, like 10 dead peasants. And I was like, did they die to the plague or did they die to the Ampha? And I think we are to assume that the Ampha murdered them.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, because what else would have happened to make them all dead?
Exactly. Yeah. I have no qualms about butchering the Ampha at will.
No, they're terrible.
Yeah. And I just realized that we did that whole quest in Zendaijin and then we didn't talk about it. Let's just rewind really quick.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna take a quick detour from talking about finding Togo. Well, we found Togo and we told Yijo's mom about the passing of her son, and then we go back to Greco and we get the reward. He's going to give us a new quest, but we did do a quest called An Unwelcome Guest back in Zendaijin.
Yes.
How good of a time did you have with this fucking monstrosity?
I didn't have a very good time.
I hate this quest so much.
It's an attribute quest. That's you get more attributes for the rewards, 15 of them, which is nice. And 4,000 XP. Thanks. But I feel like it should have been more because you're given level 13 henchmen to go through Zendaijin explorable area, and you've got to take Zunra, who dies quickly because he's only level 13, through hordes of afflicted, and you basically need to lead him through miasma in order to clear the miasma because he wants to cleanse the land and reclaim Zendaijin for his own again. And you're like, cool, yeah, we'll help you. But level 13 henchmen, not a good time.
Yeah. So how this usually works is you do the mission and then you unlock an explorable area after or you unlock an outpost after where you can then enter the mission explorable area like backwards, right? Mm-hmm. But they do it kind of weird with Zendaijin is you do the mission and then you can access the Zendaijin explorable area from the opposite end, which is accessed from Seitung Harbor, where we've already been, which has lower level henchmen. This is the only way to get into Zendaijin as an explorable area. So yeah, we have to, I think what the quest dialogue says is a demon has taken advantage of Zunra's weakness, while Zunra had to like kind of keep the area strong against the plague in the valley. So we have to go disperse all of the plague.
Yes.
And Was this so? What this amounts to is you have to stand in the plague with Zunra until the quest like updates. Was this buggy for you at all?
Yeah, because Zunra doesn't like to run in a straight line, and I'm like, literally just come towards me.
He doesn't, and when I was standing in the miasma with him, first of all, I got to flag the heroes out, or the henchmen out, or they're just going to die, right?
Yeah.
So it's just me and Zunra standing in there, and the quest updates like 6 or 7 times. Like, the little star on the map does its little flashy thing, but the quest doesn't actually update.
Nope.
And I kind of just have to, like, run in a circle in the plague until the quest figures it out. It's a really, really buggy quest.
Yeah.
I probably had to resurrect Zunra more than 10 times.
So for whatever reason, I thought this was more like the mission area. I don't know why my brain was not quite awake, apparently, and I forgot that there was didn't realize that there was a res shrine at the beginning. So I actually went in, and then you've got this first huge mob of afflicted, that you get to fight. Zunra, of course, dies, and I'm like, great, I've got to go and respawn him.
I actually wiped to this group, because I multi-aggroed.
I didn't wipe to this group, I wiped to the next group as I was on my way to the Shrine of Zunra that was closest to where I was, to go and respawn our horse friend, and I wiped to that group. Or I almost wiped. It was me and my spirits. And then I went and I was like, well, maybe can I get through the rest of this with just me and spawning Zunra? No. The answer is no. And so I ended up resigning, thinking, oh, well, I'll just have to restart the quest. I did that like 2 or 3 times. And then I realized, hey, wait, that's a res shrine icon on my map.
Oh, did you think that the mission area was like a special area that didn't res?
Yes, I don't know why my
Well, because you're in the mission area, so you're like, oh, I'm doing a mission.
Yeah, and so, anyways.
Yeah, lots of death. I probably had like 40% plus death penalty on most of my party for like half of this quest.
Yeah, well, I ended up, on my successful run, I think I lost Zunra twice. And I had a party wipe once, but that's only because I was flagging and pulling, and trying not to over aggro, because I had already seen what over aggroing did the first few times.
Yeah, so. I had a bad start to this quest, and it didn't, and it was like indicative of how the quest was going to go. So I came out of the gate, instantly double aggroed. Everybody died. I had to run away, and like we didn't res shrine res. I ran away with the monk, and then we came back and got people back. Good. Which is like, it would have been easier to just go to the res shrine, but whatever. Yeah. My pride insisted that I fix the situation.
Right.
And then we kind of continued in that vein, and Zunra pretty much died every fight for me. Just charged in and died. So I'm constantly resing Zunra, and you have to go through like 6 or 7 of these plague miasmas that you have to shut down. And then we end up in the center. Do we have to kill anything, or does the quest just end when we get to the middle?
No, we have to kill the corrupted Zunra.
Yeah, there's a corrupted Zunra, and I think there's a few of them. There's like corrupted Kirans, but they're not named Zunra.
Correct.
Yeah. And they're smiting monks?
Yes, they've got, I think they have Ray of Judgment.
They definitely have Retribution.
Yes, they have Retribution, and then the afflicted monks that like to hang out with them have Ray of Judgment, which is not fun.
Yeah, I think for the afflicted, the ritualists are actually the healers, and the monks are offensive smiters. The afflicted ritualists have Flesh of My Flesh, so they have a res skill, which is why they're a number 1 priority for me when I'm fighting afflicted. But yeah, there's the primary mobs in this quest are afflicted, and then they've got some Zunra, like evil Zunras. And then you have to kill the evil Zunra at the end, and now we've successfully... And so what happened with me is Zunra died while I was fighting evil Zunra. So I had to go res Zunra so I could get the quest reward from Zunra.
So I was going to do that, and then I realized that the quest marker was leading me out of Zendaijin, and I was like, what? So I opened up my big map, and it said go back to Satan Harbor, essentially. And I was like, oh, Wait. Okay, so I just walked out of the area, went back into Satan Harbor, and then went to the Shrine of Zinra and got my quest reward out there.
You know, I didn't even think about doing that, and I totally could have done that, and that would have saved me a jog.
Well, I mean, I was ready to jog, and I was like, crap. And then I
forgot
that it was pointing me outwards, and I was like, what?
I forgot that Zunra spawns at Seitung Harbor.
Yeah.
Pour one out for me. Good jogging over and running and rezzing Zunra a 13th time.
I mean, you know, I was, like I said, I think because in the last attribute quest, the reward person, did you get the reward inside the area?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's what I was ready to, like, do that, and then, yeah.
Yeah, all in all, giant pain in the ass quest, but you kind of got to do it if you want your character optimized, because you need your plus 15 attributes.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we're armed, we've done both plus 15 attribute quests for factions, so we're like fully attributed now. Yep. We just got to finish leveling up. I still have another level to get. Miko did manage to ding 20 in this episode.
Yeah.
I think since you played today, you actually ended up doing more quests than me.
I ended up, I dinged 20 after finishing an unwelcome guest. Gotcha. This attribute quest. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I did that at like level 16, so I did it before I left for the mainland. But now that we kind of went over that, we can zip back to having just turned in our quest to Headmaster Grieco after delivering the news of Yijo Tan's death. Yes. And Grieco says Togo's gone to speak with the Emperor, who is Togo's brother. Yep, Togo is brothers with the Emperor. So that's pretty... It's kind of like if Dumbledore was the brother of the Minister of Magic.
Yeah.
To keep on contextualizing things the only way I know how, which is through Harry Potter. I don't...
Lord of the Rings. We haven't done any Lord of the Rings on this one.
I don't know how else to contextualize things. That's just how my brain works. I don't know what to tell you. Well,
and what we find out from Grieco,
I want to say?
Yeah. Is that... He says Master Togo's mother caught the eye of Emperor Kinta, our current emperor's father. And so I'm like, oh, we've got a little extramarital something. So I think Togo is half-brothers with the current emperor.
I think you may be correct. Yeah, I don't remember if it confirms that or not, but I think you are right. But yeah, apparently they are on speaking terms because Togo's like they say that Togo is one of the few people that is permitted entry to the palace because technically no one except the emperor is supposed to be able to go in the palace.
Right.
But Togo gets to because they share blood. So that's what Togo's doing while we wander around and find all of the students he sent out willy-nilly into Weijin Bazaar.
Right. Yeah. Go talk to all of your classmates and you're like, great.
Yeah.
I'll go do that.
Yeah, so we got to go find a whole host of people. And while I'm doing this, there's a lot of guys standing around with exclamation marks over their heads.
Yeah.
And some of these quests are pretty interesting and kind of funny.
Yeah.
As far as side quests go, did you do a quest called Luxury Goods?
I did not.
Oh, okay. Did you talk to Officer Chitaro at all? Do any of his quests?
No.
Oh, okay. I'll knock all these out. Let me tell you about this guy. He's wild. Yeah. So there is a quest called Medical Emergency. I think this is the first one. And the guards are running low on medical supplies. This is from a guy named Guardsman Pa, P-A-H.
Yes, I ran into this guy, and I was like, ooh, that sounds like a really interesting quest. I don't have time for you, my friend, because I had done another quest for a different guardsman, and he pissed me off. So I was like, fuck you.
There's a few different guardsman quests here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm helping Guardsman Pa get some medical supplies, and he says I need to ask a guy named Officer Chitaro, who is a part of the Ministry of Flame. I don't really know what that is yet, but it's part of the local government, apparently. And he says he should have additional supplies because, like, the peasants just, like, don't have enough medical supplies to deal with the plague.
Right.
Chitaro tells us that there are no extra supplies. So I go over and I talk to him, and he's like, there's no extra supplies. In order to request supplies, you can fill out Form 3056-B. So this is giving us
bureaucracy at its best.
Yeah, no. So this is setting up a vibe for how these quests are going to go. So that completing that quest will then open up several more quests we can do for Officer Chitaro. One of which is Imperial Assistance.
Okay.
Chitaro says that Imperial Guard Ranto should be one of the few people who could provide immediate medical aid to refugees. So we have the first guy I talked to is Guardsman Pa. I think he's just like a local guard. Then I talked to Officer Chitaro, who's obviously like with the government. And now I'm talking to Imperial Guard Ranto, who's like, I think he's a better guard than Guardsman Pa. But I'm trying to keep it all straight.
He clearly works in the palace or something.
Yeah, he's like a palace or like an inner city guard, right? And Ranto accuses the government of passing the buck once again, quote. But he actually does give us medical supplies. Ranto has medical supplies for the refugees. I hook them up. The luxury goods quest that I mentioned, so this Chitaro guy, he says the Celestial Ministry, which I think is like the higher up ministry. He says that the Celestial Ministry has heard cries from the people during this time of crisis, and that they just got a shipment of rare mirrors in from Elona, and that they're going to distribute said mirrors among the oppressed peasantry. He wants me to go do it. So immediately, you're probably thinking the same thing I am. What the hell do they need mirrors for?
Mirrors for, yeah. Unless they're trying to, like, use them as...
like during surgery or something. I don't know.
I mean, I was thinking more like mesmery stuff, because I'm thinking of, like, Lyssa's mirrors.
I was thinking, like, Master and Commander style, doing surgery on yourself.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Wow, that's really good, because that was a really... Yes, okay.
But, so we go talk to... So we deliver these mirrors to NPCs that are specifically labeled homeless Canthan. So these are not just peasants, these are homeless folks. And I walk up and I'm like, hey man, I got this mirror for you. And all of them are like, what the hell do I need with a mirror? Go away.
Right.
I'm literally homeless. I don't need a mirror.
Right.
And one of them's a quote that I thought was very funny just because of how this term has changed. He says, quote, those ministry simps are so out of touch. Here, I'm pretty sure, this is 2006, right? So I'm pretty sure they are meaning, like, simpletons. But the word simp nowadays, of course, carries a very different context. So I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah. Also, probably, even still, applicable.
Right, yeah. Because you can have the ministry simping for the emperor and not the peasantry, right?
Right.
And so I take this news back to Chitaro that they did not want the mirrors. The mirrors do leave my inventory, so they did take them, but like maybe they can sell them, right? But they're useless. And I tell Chitaro, hey, they didn't need those mirrors, and he's like floored to hear this. He's shocked. He can't believe that the mirrors were the wrong thing.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, so his solution is the next time we'll have to outdo ourselves with some golden ornate garden gnomes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a hell of a quest.
Read the room, bro.
Yeah, no, Officer Chitaro is a really good meme. I like him.
Yeah.
So what was the quest that you did for the other guardsman? I believe his name is Tang.
Tang, yeah, assist the guards.
Yeah, so this quest... What would you say if I told you that this quest changed the entire trajectory of my playthrough?
I would believe you.
Okay. Tell me about your experience.
So, our guardsman Tang wants you to locate Wang in the sewers and eliminate him.
Because Wang is just a bad guy. He's like a thug.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. Go and end his criminal activity. And I'll inform the Emperor of your great deeds. And if I'm not mistaken, this takes you into the Undercity?
It does, and I found it really funny that when you're taking the quest, Tang describes Wang's group as, quote, rat tag. Not ragtag.
Not ragtag, yes.
Rat tag.
And I was like, clearly, is that a typo? That must be a typo.
Well, it's rat tag hyphenated.
Yes.
Is ragtag usually hyphenated?
No.
I don't know. Yeah, I think somebody just thought rat tag. I think somebody genuinely believed rat tag was the phrase.
Maybe.
And the editor just didn't care.
Right. Rat tag, right. The rat tag group of thugs. Unless he thinks that they are rat infested.
That's true, which is I've been to the Undercity. This is entirely possible.
Entirely possible, yes.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing this quest while also running the primary quest, the end of the primary quests that you're supposed to do to after you've talked to all of your fellow students, you have to go and find Togo, who's hanging out in the Undercity.
We have to go and find Jinzo, who's in the Undercity, who's with Togo. We got to go help Togo find Jinzo, I think. Yeah. I think is what we have to do.
By the time you find Togo, he's found Jinzo, and Jinzo is basically crying in his...
in a puddle of his own making.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And Togo's like, right, I'll calm Jinzo down. You go and talk to Guardsman Pei.
And then of course we broke off to go kill Wang.
Right. So I killed Wang on the way, and then found Togo.
And how good of a time did you have in the Undercity?
So up until the point where I killed Wang, everything is going okay. I find Togo, still things are going fine. And I'm like, cool, I can go and turn my quest into Tang. And also, Togo's told me to go and find Guardsman Pei to go to the next place where he wants to meet up with us. And I'm like, okay. And at this point, I forgot, not that I hadn't noticed already, that when you open up your big map, you just get a big look at Kaineng, not the Undercity, which is a localized map underneath.
And it has a feature that I don't think anything else in Guild Wars has. It has fog of war.
Yeah.
On the minimap, so everything's blacked out. You have to run to actually get places uncovered in the minimap.
Yeah, and the minimap is you cannot actually access the minimap when you open up your big map.
It'll just show you. Yeah, it'll just show you as a dot in the Canthan Overworld. You have to use the mission map.
Right. So I forgot this after talking to Togo. I was like, right, where's Guardsman Pei? I open up my big map because I just see that the asterisk is leading me somewhere in this fogged out mission map, and I was like, oh, I have to go, for whatever reason, I thought I had to go back to, I thought I had to go back to the marketplace. So I zoned out. I ported out. And then realized, no. Guardsman Pei is in the Undercity, and I have to go and run back through again. And this is when I had a bad time.
There's a lot of Ampha boss groups, and they're pretty hard.
And the one that absolutely, and right out the gate, when I get back into the Undercity, it's the Elementalist boss, Cheng.
The Attuned, who uses a skill called Double Dragon. Yeah, he's attuned to wrecking my shit.
Yeah. He wrecked our shit. And whereas the first time through, we dealt with him just fine. So I get up to him again. I was like, okay, we didn't have such a bad time going through. It should be fine. No, it was not fine. It was the opposite of fine. It was very, very bad. And I repeatedly died, was repeatedly rezzed after Sue went and got a minion out of my corpse multiple times. And I think I must have died the most of my entire party. So by the time the group finally wiped, and I was like, thank God, now we can just start over. I must have had, I don't know. It wasn't close to max. It wasn't max death penalty, but I was close.
Yeah, the Undercity
And,
is not a place where you fuck around.
no. No, it is not.
It's very dangerous. The groups are just very big. Like, there's a lot of enemies in each group.
Yeah, and I wrote down in my notes, I still hate the Undercity, and now I remember why.
Yes, I hate it because of the fog of war primarily.
That also.
Because it doesn't, like, if you go through the Undercity and explore the whole thing, if you leave and come back, it'll be fully fog of war again.
Yep.
So yeah,
most annoying.
Not a fan of that. The assist the guards quest for Tang. That quest did change the course of my playthrough, because when I killed Wang is actually a carbon copy of a boss. Let me get this guy's name, actually. Wang on the wiki. We're doing our notes on the fly, guys. Yep. So he is a carbon copy of the boss Liu of the Knives, who is a Ampha boss in the Shenzhen tunnels. They literally just ported that boss to this location and renamed him for this quest. Liu of the Knives drops a unique set of daggers called Liu's Karambits.
Okay.
I am now the proud owner of Liu's Karambits.
Did you go and look for Liu after this?
No, I didn't. But now that I have a unique set of max damage daggers with insanely good stats on them,
you're running daggers now, huh? You're a proper assassin.
I am running daggers now. Yeah.
Now, so did Wang drop this?
Wang drops this. Yeah. They just copied this boss over and gave it a new name, but they did not change anything else about it in the game code. So he has the same drop table as Liu of the Knives.
That's insane.
Yeah, so I'm now the proud owner of Liu's Karambits. The stats on these daggers are pretty good. They are max damage. They require 9 dagger mastery. They do plus 15% damage while in stance. I need to pick up a stance. They've got 20/20 armor penetration, and they've got health plus 30.
So, well, that's good. Are they green, or are they green?
They are
weapons?
green. Yep, they're green.
Okay. Well, good for you. You're now gonna you're no longer doing the meme run, huh?
I am not doing the meme run. I took this to be a portent of fate.
Yeah, probably a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, is the game telling me what needed to be done? And now that I am playing daggers and running into combat head first, I don't know how viable assassins are in melee combat, man.
Yeah, they can die a lot, and I remember, because I do have a max level assassin, and I think by the time I get there to the enemies, my party has killed.
Yeah.
My henchmen have killed.
Yeah,
faster.
They're fine if you have, like, a very optimized hero comp, right? Because, like, you're unkillable that way. But with the henchmen, man, because you only get one monk henchman, one healer henchman.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. And boy, is she under a lot of pressure.
She is under a lot of pressure, yep.
Yeah,
which is another reason why I took Professor Guy, because he runs flesh of my flesh.
Yes, yeah, Professor Guy is in my party as well. So that's the new route that I'm taking is daggers. I think I'm going to pick up the elite skill. What's it called? It's a skill. Palm Strike. I'm going to pick up the elite skill Palm Strike.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah, because it's like a skill that does damage, and then when we get to the Shenzhen tunnels, I'm actually going to kill Liu of the Knives again, so I can capture Flashing Blades.
Nice.
Because I would have captured it from Wang, but I had not been to Kaineng City, so I did not have access to a signet of capture.
Yeah.
So I'll have to find actual Liu of the Knives, kill him with his own daggers, and then take his elite skill from him.
Nice.
Which I think is a very assassinly thing to do, so I'm down for this.
I think Panaka would approve.
Exactly, and Panaka is actually in my party, so he'll get to watch and help. Flashing Blades is a stance, so it will trigger that plus 15% damage on my daggers. So it's just good. I am noticing dagger spamming very difficult without zealous daggers. It's a very energy intensive endeavor.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to be putting some radiant insignias on my armor to give myself more energy.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that's the route my playthrough's taking. Did you do any other side quests in Wajin Bazaar?
Yes. So when I ran into the Undercity. I think it was in one of my runs where I had a lot of death penalty on me. I ran into this guy who is just labeled as like something peasant, who's just kind of walking around, and what it turns out is that he is an undercover Canthan guard named K Feng.
That's actually fascinating. I did not find this person.
Yeah, and he is investigating a connection between a key ministry official and a high-ranking Jade Brotherhood member.
Which that checks out. In one of the other quests I did, they talk about the Jade Brotherhood having paid off the Canthan government for something.
So he wants you to take a scroll and take it to his captain, Shay Wong, in Kaineng Center. So this quest is called The Missing Link. And I was like, okay, I'll go do that. And so today is when I actually finished that quest chain.
It's a whole chain.
It is. It's a couple of quests. And let me pull up quickly. Nope. Here we go. So after this quest, well, great, thanks. You haven't really told me. Oh, right. So his actual like undercover name is Baosen. And Baosen, Baosen. And so once you go and find Shay Wang, he's all, well, he sent you. I take it that this is evidence that he's found, but if his identity is compromised, his life is in danger, you need to go back to the Undercity and warn him of an ambush orchestrated by a Jade Brotherhood thug by the name of Noqui, Noqui.
Noqui sounds right.
Yeah, and so he's like, please hurry, because his life depends on it. So you have to go back into the Undercity, and I waited a while because I was like, okay, I'm not going into the Undercity anytime soon. And then I was running around. I ran into another NPC called Bujo, who is an Ampha kind of guy hanging
like
out in
operative.
Kaineng. Yeah, and he's just hanging out. And how did I get to him?
So you've been to Kaineng City proper at this point?
I have, yeah, today, as a matter of fact.
I have not been there yet.
Yeah, so and we can say this if you want to, but
no, I'm invested now. I need to hear.
Okay, so when you talk to, let's see, who is it? Imperial Agent Hanjo tells you that the Ampha seem to be immune to the plague, and he sends you off to go talk to Bujo. He's like, go and find out what's going on. Why are the Ampha immune to the plague and the corruption from it? See if you can go in undercover. And so Bujo, and that quest is called The Search for a Cure. When you find Bujo, where the heck is this quest? My notes are all scrambled. Oh, Bujo's like, oh, because he's an operative of the Ampha. He's like, okay, sure, you want to join the Ampha? Well, we're always looking for new members. But, you know, we're not going to take weaklings, basically. So if you want to go and join our ranks, you need to go out and kill three of the Jade Brotherhood and bring me back their capes as proofs, their guild capes as proof. And this is a point where I remembered that I have just randomly sitting in my storage bank 6 Jade Brotherhood capes.
So you've encountered this at some point in your Guild Wars past.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, I don't have to. I can just go and pick up my capes out of my bank. And so I brought them over, and he took 3, and he was just like, oh, cool. Those weaklings are now gonna be bowing to the simpering emperor. Right, okay, great. So he's like, there's nothing wrong with the plague. It is the sickness is a gift from the gods. Only those who are truly strong may thrive in its loving embrace. And
so
then he sends you.
There's like a religion springing up, like a cult springing up around the plague.
Weird. Yeah. So well, supposedly the Ampha, right there. So yeah. So he sends you off. Bujo does, to go and find Brother Tosai. And Brother Tosai is out in, like, where was he? Buckdeck Byway, I want to say. I
had to go to Buckdeck Byway to deliver the mirrors. I did not do anything else in Buckdeck Byway besides the mirror delivery.
Were the Ampha hostile in that area?
Some hostile, some not hostile.
Right. So if you go to find Brother Tosai, all of the Ampha are not hostile. They're all friendlies. And Brother Tosai is like, oh, Bujo sent you? Great. He must have been impressed. If you're worthy of joining our ranks and gaining immeasurable strength, you have to take the chalice of corruption and drink deeply of its bounty. And you have the option here to say that you will drink from the chalice of corruption or refuse to drink it.
And I know I've heard of this quest chain before, and I know what drinking of the chalice does.
Yeah, so I drank from the chalice because I was like, I want to see where this leads. So I drank from the chalice, and you then have to go into the Undercity again with Brother Tosai. And it puts a corruption on you, which has I think it's a -3 health degen, but your monks kind of help keep you alive, and you can't remove it. Only Brother Tosai can remove it.
And your health bar turns green. Get plagued, bro. Oh, it doesn't?
No, it doesn't. But you do have like the same kind of like miasma aura that you get while you're running through Zendaijun.
Right, yeah. So get plagued.
Yeah. And so you basically just have health degeneration, and then your monk can cast something on you and bring your health back up, and it just, yeah.
So were you able to fix this?
So in order to fix this, I had to lead him down into the Undercity, and you get to a point, and he's just like, great. You now have to prove that you're worthy and meet your new masters. And the new masters are basically wave spawns of afflicted. It's not the Ampha. They're afflicted. And so you have to kill them all. In order to survive. And that's the only way. I ended up wiping at one point. Because they just come at you from all sides. And you can easily just over aggro, even if you're trying not to. So I spawned, I rezzed, came back, dealt with the last couple of waves, and then finally I had to go and talk to Brother Tosai again, and he tells you that the Chalice of Corruption has an invigorating effect, does it not? Soon you'll be truly one of us. There is but one last thing you must do. So you accept his quest, and then he says, no, I'm sorry, I messed up. That was what he tells you once you've drunk it, and then you have to lead him into the city, Undercity.
An invigorating effect.
An invigorating effect, yeah. And so once you've dealt with that, then this quest that where you go into the Undercity is called Masters of Corruption. And you go through, kill the afflicted, like I said, and once you're done, it's funny because when he leads you to, he says, meet your new masters who are the afflicted, he starts laughing.
Can you do this quest, this whole chain, without drinking from the chalice?
I'm not sure if you refuse to drink, what happens.
Because I'm thinking, like, from a roleplay perspective, this makes total sense. Miko, as a ritualist, would do this, right?
Yeah.
From a ritualist standpoint, this is fascinating. My character, as a self-serving, self-preserving assassin, would be like, I'm not drinking that.
Yeah. And I think that if I've done this quest before, I may have refused. And I have a feeling that the Ampha in the area became hostile.
Huh, okay. Interesting. I may do it. I may do it and not drink and see what happens.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd have to check the wiki to see it. But yeah, but so yeah, once he leads you to that area, he starts laughing. And I'm like, why is he laughing? There's no dialogue. Like, you can't interact with him after that. And then you just get all of these waves of afflicted. And then once you're done, and you go back to talk to him, he says, spare me and I shall remove the effects of the chalice. Be warned that the Ampha will forever be your enemies. Those who drink from the cursed cup shall never know peace.
So and I've never checked Ampha. Do they all have this health degenerative effect on them?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Like, I don't think so either, but I've never checked.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like inner circle Ampha that drink from the chalice.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if it's just if Brother Tosai is basically lying to you.
Because the whole thing kind of reeks of mumbo jumbo, right?
Yeah.
And the health degenerative effect is probably just like whatever wretched plague poison you drank. Yeah. So how does the quest conclude?
So that's it. Once he just tells you that, and then you get your 3,000 XP.
Only 3,000 XP for all that?
Yeah, I know.
Wild.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so while I was down there is when I actually finished up the missing link, which was back with where I had to go and find Nokui. Shay Wong had to tell me to go and find actually Kei Feng to save him from Nokui. And as you get over, you can see Kei Feng, so you run over. But before you actually get to him, he's murdered. And Nokui shows up, and then you have to kill him. And then once you kill him, then you go back to Shay Wong to let him know. And he tells you that Kei Feng was like a son to him, and he will not let his death be in vain. And that the Jade Brotherhood has a long history of bribing the ministry, but thanks to Kei Feng's sacrifice, they will be exposed and brought to justice.
Does that happen?
I don't know. I know I got 3,000 XP for it, and so I'm wondering if there's a follow-up quest, because I didn't want to do too many quests out of KC Canning Center, so I just I stopped.
Gotcha.
I was like, let me save some for next time.
Yeah, I did some similar types of quests in Weijin Bazaar. So it kind of reminded, like, how that quest ends kind of reminds me of all the steps I took to eradicate the Crimson Skull from Xingzhe, and that kind of just went nowhere, right? Like, I killed the leader of the Crimson Skull in their guild hall, but then I get over to Seitung Harbor, and there's a whole bunch of Crimson Skull at an encampment. Like, it just, like, I'm doing all these quests, and there's no, like, actual persistent results for them. I did a quest where I'm pretty sure I assisted with the human trafficking of children. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's a quest in Weijin Bazaar called Assassination Attempt. Okay. Have you interacted with this at all? I think I ran across it. Yeah, I ran across it, but I did not run it. Okay, so there's a guy named Saito, and he's dressed in that, like, purple government uniform with the cap. And he says he rescued, I'm making air quotation marks with my fingers here, several children from the streets and took them to a district run by Jade Brotherhood where they would, quote, be safe. Oh dear. Yeah. And the parents of the children hired an assassin named Ratsu to kill Saito for taking their children. And I have in big bold letters in my notes, this reeks of human trafficking. Yeah. He needs me to kill Ratsu so that Ratsu doesn't kill him. Me being an assassin, I'm like, all right, I mean, if you pay me money, I will do this. So I go and I kill this assassin. The assassin actually, like, attacks me first, and I kill him easily because he's one guy. And then I come back and I get my quest reward. So there's no... I thought this would be one of those quests where we'd, like, turn it on its head and find out Saito's actually the baddie. No, we just help him, even though I'm pretty sure he's the baddie. I would have liked this quest to have an option where I can kill Saito instead. Like, as an assassin, I thought... Like, even if it was just an option for assassins, that would be really cool, right? Yeah. That'd kind of be like the same flavor that you got after running that quest for Panaku. Exactly. Yeah. Instead, I think I just helped a bad guy do a bad thing. Right. So that doesn't feel good, but I feel like it's something like roleplay-wise my character may participate in. Because my character learned from Panaku, who would absolutely do that.
Right, exactly.
I did a quest called Problem Solving. Did you find this?
No, I did not.
This quest is wild. So there's a woman named... Who did I get this quest from? I think I got this quest from Guardsman Pa. No. I might have just gotten it from Payomu, the woman who you do the quest for. Okay. There's this woman named Payomu, and she needs a rare treatment for her son's illness, and it's called Thorn Devourer Salve. Now, we fought Thorn Devourers in Prophecies. So this stuff comes from, like, the Maguma jungle. It's really rare. And you have to have it shipped from Tyria to Cantha. Right. So the government won't let her purchase any, so I go to chat with Officer Chitaro. Who else, right? Again, but my man, the chief bureaucrat in town. And he sends us over again to talk to Guardsman Pa, because that's just who he likes to pass the buck to. Right. He says, Chitaro says that we can petition the case after the appropriate scroll work has been filed in triplicate.
Of course.
Yeah. So Guardsman Pa says that the last bottle of Thorn Devourer salve was sold to a wealthy nobleman named Budo. And that and then he's like, by the way, the government's enforcing a fake shortage to try and drive the price up. Yeah, this is insanity. I go find Budo. He's like standing right over there, right? And this is a complete stranger. I've never met this. This is an episode full of complete strangers telling me the most out-of-pocket shit imaginable. I've never met this man before in my life, and I ask him about the salve, and he immediately says that he wanted the salve for his erectile dysfunction. Shut up. Immediately. Yes, immediately he says this. He doesn't use those exact words, but he's like, hey, me and my wife have been having some trouble in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. And this salve was supposed to fix it. And I'm like, I've never met you before in my life.
It's a little bit too much information, friend.
Yeah, he goes full TMI immediately.
Yeah.
And he says it didn't work, but that he does feel strangely energized. But the salve is gone. So the conclusion of this quest is me coming back to Payomu, telling her there's no salve, and her telling me that she will find a ship to Kryta so that she can acquire it herself.
Wow.
Depressing quest and very weird.
And also, like, if you can't pay for the import fee, how are you going to pay your passage to go to Kryta?
Yeah, I don't know. It would have been great if I could have been like, here's 200 gold, go to Kryta, right?
Yeah, please.
That would have been better, I think. But yeah, it doesn't give you any sort of option to do that. I just say good luck with that, and then I skip off into the slums of Kaineng City. The last quest I did was called Straight to the Top. Did you do this?
Okay. Nope.
So after you kill Wang, you can go back and collect the reward from Guardsman Tang, and he has a follow-up quest.
Okay.
And he basically, this is where I learned that the Jade Brotherhood is kind of a new gang on the scene. They're a group of affluent youths, is how he describes them, who have paid off the government to avoid prosecution, and they're going around killing whoever and bullying people, extortion, all that good stuff.
Yes.
And Tang wants us to kill their leader, a lady named Kufu, Quuufu, which is an incredible name. And she's always at their base in Wajin Bazaar. I wander over to this base, and there's like a really hard fight before you get to Kufu. There's like where it's really hard not to double aggro. There's like 12 of these guys. It's rough. Behind them, Kufu is just all by herself. And I'm assuming, like, okay, there's going to be pop-up mobs when I attack her.
Right.
There's not. She's just a level 24 monk boss that's all by herself, and you kill her very easily. Oh. Yeah. So I assassinate the leader of the Jade Brotherhood, and I come back to Guardsman Tang, and he's like, thanks, that should deal with that. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. The Jade Brotherhood are still all over the place.
Right.
So my crime quest was not nearly as fascinating as yours was.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I apparently I just show up in Cantha and immediately kill the leader of like one of the top gangs in the area. That's which I think is on brand for an assassin character.
Yeah.
And then when I go to the Undercity to kill Wang, that's when I get to Vaizuna Square through going through that quest.
Yeah.
which is when we met up with Togo. Jinzo is scared shitless. Jinzo is the guy. So this is what I love about doing that primary quest where we find Jinzo with Togo. Jinzo was the guy that when I talked to, he's one of my, he's the first assassin trainer I go meet back on Xingje. And he's like, I was born to kill. I was born an assassin. I'm an absolute fucking savage. Right? Yeah. And then I find him and he's like, pissed his pants and he's terrified and he's like, the city's too much for me, gee golly, I don't know what I'm gonna do, right? So like a complete 180 in characterization from Jinzo. Meanwhile, Panaku is like our assassin henchman. Panaku's all in. He's like, yes, this is the world I live in. So he's I think ready for this. I think Panaku is the real deal. I think Jinzo is not. And Jinzo actually says during that quest, if only I'd been born a monk so that I could try and actually do something to assist the people here. And keep in mind, when I talked to Jinzo back in Xingje Island, he says, I was an assassin born into a family of monks. So Jinzo, complete 180 in terms of characterization, just from seeing like the horrific nature of the plague in the city. Not made of very stern stuff, Jinzo. Very funny character arc.
He tells you too in Mayhem in the Market, the primary quest. He screams basically, I cannot escape the stench of death and decay. Make it end.
Yeah, no, it breaks him like it breaks him like Vietnam. Like he's just completely overwhelmed with PTSD, and he probably needs to get shipped back to Xingje for like rehabilitation. It's over for Jinzo.
Poor guy.
And keep in mind, this is like all the Ayamfa and Jade Brotherhood are level 20. All the students Togo has sent out to investigate are level 13, like just wandering around.
No wonder they're feeling overwhelmed.
No, it's a crazy quest. And after that, we basically follow Togo, or we go with Togo to Vaizuna Square, which is how we have to talk to the guard there to get entrance. Because that's where the plague is originated in the city, is Vaizuna Square.
Right. And I think, is this the one? So once we finish Mayhem in the Market, we get a cutscene.
Yes, there is a cutscene.
Once we talk to our guardsman Pei.
Yep.
And the cutscene shows us running up to some stairs and a couple of Canthan peasants just strolling around the city and suddenly being confronted by Afflicted. One of them gets killed right away as he tries to turn and walk away, except he doesn't. And the other one kind of starts to run, but we come in and save them. Of course, this is all done cinematically. We have no control over the characters. And we say to Togo, if it's too late, like, or is it too late? And he says no, but we have to keep fighting so that we can keep the plague from spreading further. And then we get a new scene in this same cutscene, and we see a woman in rags who we later find out is a fortune teller, and she spots Shiro Tagachi just strolling through the city. She can see him, and she runs up to him and says that she sees great things in his future, and that his swords will be sought by many, and that his name will live on for 1,000 years. So I'm wondering if this is actually like, are we getting a prequel type scene here, or is this actual like? Yeah.
So this is back in time.
Okay.
This is this is before the cutscene, or not the cutscene, but this is before the events of the cinematic trailer, the faction CGI trailer. We know this because, well, we don't really know. Like, I know the story, so but the screen kind of gets this yellow filter over it.
Right. Yeah.
Sepia tone.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's telling us that this is very far in the past.
But the wild thing is that if that's very far in the past, 200 years in the past, let's say, the city is still looking pretty
Oh yeah, no, it looks utterly
it looks
ragged.
the same. Yeah, and so that's why I was like, is this present day or is this in the past?
I think
Kaining still looks like shite.
Yeah, I think they I don't know if Kaining is supposed to look different back then or not. I think they just did not have the
assets
time to develop unique assets for whatever old Cantha was supposed to look like. So yeah, he's just strutting along like the cardboard slums.
Yeah.
And
he basically tells her off.
Yeah, she tells him that she's credited as fortune teller in the dialogue, and states his swords will be sought by many, etc., etc. She really gasses him up here.
Yeah.
And he basically calls her an old fool.
Yeah, and he walks away. But she tells him that fortune is going to come his way.
Yeah, look for fortune to come your way. And then he kicks over a bucket, and a bunch of coins fall out.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, shit."
Yeah.
Like in the cutscene, he says that.
For a while, yeah. And then he picks up the coins.
Yes. And then it fades out. And he is credited in the dialogue as Shiro Togachi.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our first of a few into the past cutscenes with Shiro. Who is the guy whose guild symbol we found at Zendaijin.
Yes. And
then we spawn into the Vaizuna Square mission, and it is parentheses local quarter.
Right.
So an idea they had for missions in factions that didn't really stick. They don't do it in Nightfall, but in factions they have a few missions where there are two sides to the mission, and two different parties start it in separate locations, and they kind of meet up. So it's a 16-person mission at that point.
Yeah.
This is one of them. There's the local quarter and the foreign quarter. Foreign quarter is for people coming over from Nightfall or Prophecies. You will land at the Vaizuna Square foreign quarter.
Right.
Or if you are from Xingje, you will find yourself doing the mission from the local quarter. The idea here is that we have to meet Menlo at Vaizuna Square, so the foreign quarter team goes with Menlo, and the local quarter team goes with Togo.
Correct.
And how did you... Where to start with this mission? How did you find this?
There's a lot of enemy pressure in this mission. And you have to keep Menlo alive. For the local quarter, you don't have to do as much running, because you basically just have to hold out until Menlo and his party get there. But you're fighting all sorts of afflicted coming down the stairs at you from essentially three different staircases, but they all just dump into this one little area. So you basically have to not over aggro, and hold out until Menlo arrives. It was okay. I don't...
What level were you trying this out for the first time?
I think I was 17 and 17, and I ended up being like 18 at the end of it.
Yeah, I think I was 17 or 18. I failed the first time because either Togo or Menlo died. I wasn't really paying. I was just like killing things as fast as I could, and somebody died. So I had to restart it. Did you make it through on the first try?
I did. Only because, well, I was making sure once they tell you Menlo and Togo must survive once Menlo arrives with the gang, basically, and some other people. I kept making sure that they weren't lagging behind. Menlo likes to lag behind a lot. Essentially, he stops to heal Sue's... He was healing Sue's minions,
which is... just spams Horizon of healing Sue's minions. Yeah, Menlo's like, really bad in this.
Yeah, I'm like, bro, just please keep running. But when I got to the one area where you're fighting... Once you get past and they meet up, you run up some stairs and through a gate. There is a first wave of afflicted coming at you from all sides, with a couple of bosses mixed in. And then I was like, oh, right, I remember this mission now. It's all coming back to me. And my goal was, 1, make sure Menlo and Togo don't die. 2, try as hell not to over aggro, even though they're just coming at you, wave after wave after wave. And even though you're rolling a 16 party, a 16-person party, basically.
If there's 16 players on the screen at any given time, there's 24 enemies on the screen at any given time.
So there's just, it's still just a lot, because you can only control your own henchmen or heroes. You can't control the crew that comes in with Menlo. So I could be flagging mine, but Menlo and his crew, they were going to be doing whatever. So I was like, no, I need to stay close, keep them all close, because at least then maybe our healers have a chance of maybe saving them if they do get into trouble, but also try not to over aggro. So I was doing a lot of just moving around, which is what I had remembered that I'd done in the past. So going kind of like dropping forward and then dropping back, going to the sides, trying to get some of the pressure controllable, basically control the pressure as much as I could, even though it's just a lot.
Yeah, this was right after I'd made the swap over to dagger melee. And I went in with so I still had my old armor from Seitung Harbor. And I'm level like 18. And I don't have an elite skill. I'm just dying all over the place. So I failed the mission, and I remembered that I had found an armor vendor in Wajin Bazaar that sells max armor, the exotic armor, which is only available to ritualists and assassins, conveniently enough. This is the ugliest armor on the face of the planet Earth. For assassins. Yeah.
It's not too bad for the ritualists.
It is wretched looking for assassins. It looks like you've got like paper strapped to your chest. It's so bad.
Well, for the chest armor for female ritualists is basically like you're wearing a handkerchief.
Okay, like a bandana, like a folded triangle.
It's a triangled, like shawl or just handkerchief, and that is the armor. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, max armor rating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I pay out the wazoo to get this because it requires steel ingots, which are ludicrously expensive. Yeah. Fortunately, I have an entire stack of iron ingots that I do not need for crafting assassin armor. A stack of iron ingots sells to the crafting merchant for like 12,500 gold.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I financed this armor set that way. So now I've got max armor, and I've got a few thousand gold left over, so I buy some runes. And I buy a minor vigor rune and a bunch of survivor and vitae runes and attribute runes. So I'm like runed out. I'm ready to go. And I take another stab at it, and we managed to complete it. But
your advice to me, because you did message me in Discord and you're like, go and get the armor, and I was like, and then when you were like, I roomed out as well, I was like, I better go do this, because otherwise it sounds like it's gonna be a bad time.
Yeah, it was a bad time my first time through. The second time it was much more manageable because I could actually absorb damage and not immediately die, which turned out to be a huge boon to my team in general functioning correctly. Because if I die immediately, my healer henchman is rezzing me immediately, and she's not healing anyone else. It's just a chain reaction of disaster.
Exactly. Yeah.
That enabled me to complete the mission. I think the gang is with Menlo.
The gang is with Menlo. Yes, they are.
Yeah, they're all here.
It's kind of cool to see them.
Yeah, the Prophecies crew that we get as henchmen finally in Thunderhead Keep is with Menlo here, and they also stole. They stole Vang.
Yeah.
Because I was running Vang in my party, and I get to Vizuna Square, and he's gone, and I'm like, what the fuck happened to Vang? He's with Menlo. He's on the Menlo side. So, I have in my notes, they stole my shock henchman. Togo and Menlo think the plague is supernatural, not normal, so it's not like a normal disease. They think it's magical. And Menlo says that he believes it affects the soul as well as the body.
Right.
We basically, this mission consists of us killing Afflicted and then Menlo coming up with a theory about the the affliction.
Because apparently Menlo's kind of smart.
Yeah, he says that his theory is that Shiro's spirit has returned and is causing the plague. He thinks Shiro's involved due to the Shiro guild symbol we found at Zendeja. Right. And as you stated earlier, Menlo does indeed waste all of his energy healing Sue's minions, which is mildly frustrating. And Togo kind of agrees with Menlo that he thinks Shiro's spirit has returned. So we have to go. Well, we go to this little like square, and there's several instances in this mission where we're in like a square area, and we have to murder just waves and waves and hordes of afflicted. I actually did not get the master's reward for this mission.
How long did it take you?
I think it took me like more than 25 minutes, so I got the expert's reward, but no master's.
Same. Yeah, it took me 27 minutes, and I think that's probably because I was wrangling my kitten at the same time. Because he just kept dumping on my desk.
That's going to throw a wrench in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And after we kill a group of afflicted outside of like a bookshop, Menlo's like, I think Shiro is looking for information because he went to this bookshop.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay.
And then he says, like, well, it's a center of learning, just like Zendejun. And I'm just like, I guess that Zendejun is a center of learning. Okay. Mm-hmm. So Shiro is like...
find out. I was going to say that in Zendejun, the explorable area, there is the final boss is in the Daijin library. Okay,
gotcha. So it's a weird place for a library. Mm-hmm. Like on a cliff in the middle of a like 100-foot drop off. Okay. So Shiro is basically just like raiding his way through your local library, trying to find like lore. And we don't really know what he's looking for right now. We just know that he's looking for something that he would find like written on a scroll, right? Mm-hmm. And so we follow him to like underneath, I want to say. We go like down, right?
We do, yes.
And there's a big old creature called a Shirokin. Mm-hmm. Which type of Shirokin was it for you?
I got the warrior Shirokin.
I got the elementalist. What does the Shirokin warrior look like?
He looks like a he looks like one of these Imperial guardsmen with that kind of like samurai-looking armor, if I'm not mistaken. These are contracts that I have to kill.
Yeah, and they have like wings that are made out of blades, and they they're wild looking. The Shirokin elementalist is just a big dragon.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just a big flying dragon. And they're kind of like brown and metal. Mm-hmm. They all look like they're made out of rusty metal. They're constructs, like they're...
Yeah.
Yeah, there are things that, like, they're these constructs that Shiro, like, animates with evil magic. I don't know. They're there. It's not explained that clearly. And he's the Shirokin thing is with a bunch of afflicted, and we have to kill them. The Shirokin, like, challenges us to a duel, and he uses a very strange word that I had to look up.
What was that?
The word adjure. They say,
"Oh, I adjure you."
Yeah, I adjure you to fight me, which is like an urgent request or like a solemn request for someone to do something. Mm-hmm. So they challenge us to like an honorable duel. Yeah. And they're not that hard to beat.
No.
The fight goes pretty well, and then there's a cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
Who shows up?
So we get a bunch of envoys show up, or messengers, I think is what they're called.
Well,
and there's 3 of them.
I think first Shiro shows up, right?
Well, yes, that is true. We see Shiro, like, while we're celebrating having beaten this construct, we see what is a translucent-looking Shiro, and he suddenly raises up his arms, and all of a sudden, we dead.
We dead, yeah. He just kills us instantly.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people forget that this happened in factions, because there's a part in Guild Wars 2 where this happens with one of the gods. And I remember myself being annoyed, and then somebody pointed out that this happens in factions with Shiro, and I was like, oh yeah, they did do that already. So yeah, it's just one of those points where the game is kind of like, you are messing with powers far beyond your comprehension right now.
Right.
Because he just snaps his fingers and we are dead.
Pretty much.
And then, so since we are dead, a bunch of ghostly, like, not demons, but just, like, weird folks show up, and they're called envoys. Mm-hmm. And they do a lore dump.
The big lore dump. And they say that Shiro is essentially shirking his responsibility because he's supposed to be an envoy as well to shepherd the souls of the dead, to the afterlife, I guess. And he's shirking his responsibilities, and he's messing with the dead for his own purposes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they all look crazy. Like, one of them has like a minotaur head.
Yeah.
The other, he has like a minotaur head, but like a shirtless human torso.
Yes.
One of them has like a headdress. They're crazy looking. They're really cool though. I think they're quite cool.
Yeah.
I think because I believe being an envoy is a punishment, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Because Shiro gets consigned to being an envoy as a punishment, if I remember correctly, for what he did back at the Harvest Temple 200 years ago. So I believe all of these envoys are supposed to be people who were, like, bad when they were alive.
And the irony here is that they're all, like, Shiro's doing more bad than normal.
They take their job as envoys very seriously.
Seriously, yeah. And they want to put a stop to him, but they cannot, because there's no way for them to stop Shiro.
Envoys don't appear to be able to stop one another.
Right.
Seeing as Shiro just snapped his fingers and we died, I don't know if we're the right people for the job, but we've been given the job by them at this point. So they're basically like, we're giving you a second chance. You get a do-over. You've got a 1-up from Mario.
Yeah.
And we need to go figure out what the hell is going on with Shiro and how to stop him.
Right, and I found it interesting that they're like, we cannot combat Shiro. We can combat Shiro by acting like Shiro. And that is when they insta-res you.
Yeah, they're basically like, what they're doing is technically a violation of the rules, right? Which is what Shiro's supposedly doing with the souls that he's supposed to be shepherding to the afterlife. Right. I believe they don't explicitly say what he's doing. They just say that he's misusing his powers as an envoy.
Right.
And I think we learn more about what he's actually doing with his envoy powers in the next few missions and primary quests that we do.
Yep.
And they tell us where we're going next.
Yeah, they tell us that in order to stop Shiro, we have to be able to see Shiro. And in order to do that, we have to become Wen no Su.
Or closer to the stars.
Closer to the stars. Yeah, and of course, here comes Togo. He's just like, yes, Menlo and I know about this. And I'm like, well, ain't that great.
Togo has to come swaggering in and be a know-it-all. Like,
yeah.
Togo's ego is not like half of the plot, honestly. But this isn't so this is the ascension mechanic for factions, is doing the mission is called Nafui quarter. There's a PH in there somewhere, and I'm not sure if it's or p, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, we got to go talk to this oracle soon, and get essentially the faction's equivalent of Ascended. After we got Ascended in Prophecies, it enabled us to see the Mersat. There's a similar thing going on with Shiro. So, kind of a redone plot point. But it's one of those things you got to do. Yeah. If you do this, it will allow you to do what getting Ascended enabled you to do in Prophecies, which is going into the underworld, I want to say, and Fissure of Woe. So you can get Ascended in any game and be able to do Underworld and Fissure of Woe, but I think to be able to see the Mersat, you have to do the Desert Ascensions. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yes.
I think that's how it works.
Yes. I want to say yes.
Yeah, but that so for factions, this mission is what getting Ascended is, more or less.
Yeah.
In Nightfall, factions and Prophecies do it pretty well. In Nightfall, you just like do a primary quest, and the game considers you eligible Ascended. For Underworld time. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah. They kind of drop it in Nightfall, but that will be what we're doing for the next episode. We're going to be doing the primary quest that's going to take us to that mission, and then doing the mission, and we'll probably do some more quests out of Kaining City.
Yes.
we can kind of take factions at a more leisurely pace since it's so much shorter. So that's probably going to be what we have on the docket for next episode. These episodes are also getting really long. We should probably try to rein them in a little bit. So we should probably just do like the one mission and some Kining side quests next episode.
Right. Okay.
Until then, Miko, where can everyone find you on the internet?
The good people can find me at Inky Sticks on a social media platforms of your preference.
All right, perfect. And you can follow us here on YouTube or on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're partaking of this content. And we're also on Twitter, or X, as it is also known, at Tyria now. And we tweet out every episode that goes up so that you don't miss anything. So go ahead and follow us on all those. And if you have any input on anything that we've discussed, anything we missed, any additional trivia that might be interesting, go ahead and leave a comment, and we'll talk about it there. Until next time, guys, this has been Tyria then. See you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.